Voices and topics from Thompson Valley's high school students. This is Eagles and Airwaves.
Hello everybody, welcome to Deep Diving. I'm Brileigh, and today, or this week, we'll be doing a deep dive into diving. Pun not intended, I swear. So, as many of you know, I am a springboard diver for, my school and my club. But I said that when I was still doing Teens Behind the Scenes, so it's just a little re-mention to those old episodes of my old podcast. So diving is a pretty awesome sport. Like, it takes it's a mental game, definitely. I love it a lot though. So we're gonna do the history, and I'm using a website called Aquatics GB. Just, yeah. So the first recorded diving championship was held in the UK, which was the Championships of Scotland held in 1889. This comprised of a dive from the side of the bath, a dive from about 6 feet, and a surface dive. That's pretty cool. So high diving became pretty popular in small circles of enthusiasts in about 1895 during the National Graceful Diving Competition, and it was open to the public, which is the world, and was for about standing and running dives from 15 and 30 feet. In the late 1890s, Otto Hagborg and C.F. Ritizzi, I don't know how to pronounce that name, came to London and introduced fancy diving. Fancy diving was being developed in Sweden. It was a direct result of the Amateur Diving Association. Oh no, wait, I read that wrong. As a direct result, the Amateur Diving Association was formed in 1901. So fancy dives were included for the first time in competition in 1903, which I'm guessing fancy dives are probably like front 1.5s, front doubles, like pretty hard dives, or just like normal springboard diving for like our decade, century, one of the two. Diving consists of an approach that leads to a large amount of height to spring you spring you higher, and then you do this weird, like, you can do like a somersault pike, somersault tuck, somersault straight. There's a lot of categories. I'll do a little bit about the categories. So there are 5 categories. There's 100, 200, 300, 400, and 5,000. So diving 100 is a forward dive. So if you had like a 101C, that's a front dive tuck. So like 101 is a forward half somersault. Let me explain the numbers a little bit. So if you had like a 101, that would be a forward dive, so that would be like a 10. And then the extra one is like how many half somersaults you do. So like a 101 is a half somersault, so a dive. You're going in on your head. A 102 is a full somersault. A 103 is a 1.5 somersault. And it just keeps adding up. Usually, like on 1 meter, it goes up to, I think, a 3. Like a triple. I don't know what the correct terminology for that is, though. But it's a pretty difficult dive. I think it's like a 2.0. No, it's way, way larger than a 2.0. Yeah, so we also have this thing called DD, which is what I'm talking about when I say 2.0. And it means degree of difficulty, so like how hard the dive is. So a forward 3 somersault in tuck is a 2.9 DD, which is pretty high. Like, I've never seen somebody actually do it in person. I've seen like front 2.5 pikes and a bunch of twisters. So like 200 is back dive. So like you're on the board you're facing the wall that's kind of behind the diving board, and your back is to the water, and then you're diving that way. And then 300 is reverse, so you're doing a front approach, and then you're diving back towards the board, which they're really fun, but they're also really hard to like do mentally because they're kind of difficult. And then 400s are inwards, so you're doing like a back dive, but you're diving in towards the diving board. And then there's twisters. So twisters consist of all the categories, which they're 5,000. So if it was like a 5-4, that would be a inward twister. And then the next number in that would be how many twists you're doing. And then the next number is, I think I'm doing this right. Hold on. Because twisters are really confusing. So like, yeah, the last number is the twists. So the third number is the amount of half somersaults. Like, so to change twisters, they added a 5. So this is the 5th category. And it's, if you had like a 5-1-1-2, that would be a front dive full twist, which is really hard. Really, really hard. Actually, that might be a little bit of a exaggeration, but they're hard to like understand. Like a 1.9 is like not very hard, but also pretty hard. Like my normal list, I don't have any like front twisters. My normal list, I only have like maybe an inward twister, which is also really rare. You hardly see anybody compete inward twisters because you have to get the right like momentum, and then you also have to contort your body differently in an inward twister than you would have to in like a back twister or a front twister. So they have a different way of scoring dive, or yeah, different way of scoring dives. So like you get up to like 7 judges, but they take off the highest and the lowest scores and wait until you have like 3 in the center, and then you add those 3 up, and then you multiply it by the DD. So if we had like an 8.5, 8.5, and 8.5, let me calculate this real quick. 0.5. Okay. That's a 25.5, and then you would have to multiply that by like say 2.9, and that would be 73 or 73.95. So that would be your score for that individual dive. And then once you get all your individual scores, you kind of add up those scores to get your total score. So it could go up from anywhere from like I think people get up into the thousands, but I'm not sure. Because I know some people get into the 500s for an 11 dive or a 6 dive list. And it also, a list is like what dives you're competing at a meet. So like 101C, 101, no, not 101, 104B. Oh, I should probably tell you what the letters stand for. So the letters are positions. So like A is straight, B is pike, C is tuck, and D is free. So you don't use D in anything but twisters. Every twister but a dive twister is always going to be D for the most part. I think every once in a while you get a tuck, a pike. Straight is also really common in twisters, but usually like tuck and pike are the rest of the categories, which I think is pretty discriminatory, even though that's not necessarily the right word. So then there's also platform diving, where you add another category, and that's 600, I believe, and that is a handstand category where you start from a handstand and then like flip or twist or do whatever you need to do to enter the water. We also do these things called pike saves, where once we enter the water, we kind of swim out and go into a pike, and then we somersault really quickly in the water, and it kind of creates the illusion that our legs are still entering straight, and it creates a pretty, like, entry. We also do this to prevent a large splash. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to time our bubbles with our body, and that will kind of break the splash a little bit. And I've seen quite a bit of people do it correctly, where they come up at the same time as their bubbles, and they had a very small splash or no splash at all, which I think is amazing. So when you're getting scored on different things like approach, if your toes are pointed, if you did the correct dive, how your dive looked, your splash, like, it's a lot of different things. Sometimes even height. Distance is a big one. You don't want to be too close or too far from the diving board or the platform, because that can scare judges, coaches, teammates. Or if you're too far out, then you're like not necessarily getting the right height that you would want, which I totally understand. So diving, when I say diving, I mean like springboard or platform, takes a lot. So platform diving are from 5 meter up to like 20 meter, I think. I'm looking this up, by the way, so I can fact check. So actually the highest platform you can do is 10 meter, and then there's also platform diving. Or not platform, tower diving. Tower diving goes up really, really high, and that's like 58.8 meters is the highest. So that's also like cliff diving and tower, which really, really difficult. That takes a lot more mental than just going off a like springboard. So thanks for listening. I'm thinking next week probably will be like baseball, or maybe I'll do like, maybe I won't do a sport. Maybe I'll do like an art type. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Eagles and Airwaves. Until next time, stay bold, stay gold, and keep soaring.